From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Speaking with the Enemy.
Tiger Cats have won 5 of their last 7 games and are seeking a home-and-home season sweep over the BC Lions tonight at what will be a jacked-up Tim Hortons Field. I'm Bubba O'Neill along with Andy Fantuz. Welcome back to Tiger Cats Pregame presented by Greenworks on the Ticats Audio Network. Ready to get ahead of the cold Canadian winter? Look no further than redtag.ca. Picture yourself basking in the warm, sandy shores of a tropical island where worries melt away like ice in the sun. Don't let winter hold you back. Plan ahead and beach better. Travel made easy with redtag.ca. Well, he is the veteran voice of the BC Lions, Bob Marjanovich. Oh, my God, let me get that out there. Thank you for joining us on Speaking with the Enemy, presented by Red Tag.
No worries, big man. No worries at all. Hey, you know what? You guys must be excited. You're playing somebody other than Toronto. This must be kind of like refreshing.
There's certainly no doubt about that. There's really no need to play someone 4 times, but that's another story. We'll talk about that in the CFL this week sometime. Hey, folks, you know, let's look back to, before we go forward, let's look back to what happened to the BC Lions last week. I know you well charted it. They had the big lead at halftime, and then they let it go and lost in overtime. Have this team recovered from that?
It's a great question, and it's a question that I posed to head coach Rick Campbell as well as some of the players. And, you know, talking to a couple of guys, said, yeah, Monday the walkthrough was tough. Right, but as the week progressed, the energy level picked up, and you know the task at hand is now obviously to beat the Hamilton Tiger Cats tonight. So, yeah, I mean it stung. It was a hard way to lose a football game. I mean we all saw what happened with Dom Rhymes. I mean even Vernon Adams stretching out, didn't give him the first down. Then they failed to convert on third down. So, you know it's crazy because a lot of people look at the Rhymes thing and say if he falls down, 2 seconds, kick the field goal, you win the game. But much like the Ottawa game when BC came back against the Red Blacks. And you guys both know, in those instances, there's so many things that have to go right for you. And against Ottawa, all of those things went right for the Lions. Against Winnipeg, all those things went right for the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, right? So give them credit. They're obviously a very good football team. But, yeah, it was a tough one for the Lions, but I think they're ready to bounce back. And, you know, hey, the true test will be how they perform tonight, right? We'll find out about this man in whatever 4 or 5 hours.
Well, of course you're going to say everyone's going to say they still have a chance to get that first place. But do you think they truly believe it, being inside that locker room, or being because you got Winnipeg playing the 2 bottom teams in the West in their final 2 games?
I think you want to believe it, and as a player, you want to go out there and perform your best and win these 2 games. Here's the irony, fellas: the Lions finish their season before Winnipeg plays again. And the Lions really don't have, unless they lose tonight, obviously Calgary would be a different story, but they don't have that luxury of saying, well, we're going to start resting bodies and this and that. And talking to Rick Campbell, when I mentioned the fact that, you know, Winnipeg doesn't play until you finish your season because they've got the bye this week, next week. Lions got Calgary at home on Friday. Winnipeg plays on Saturday, right? So Lions will be done. And Rick said, no, he goes, we're going to go out there and hopefully win 2 games and put pressure on the Bombers, right? So force them into going out there and having to win the following Saturday and maybe even the following week.
Well, it gives you a different mindset as well, going into the playoffs, that you kind of controlled what you can control, and you're not going in with a bunch of questions to answer. You're playing good football, and you're where you want to be, regardless of when that first game is.
And that's another point, you know, talking to some of the players and coaches. Now it's, I think, talking to Garrett Peters specifically for pregame, so now it's more about that process, right, which you mentioned. It's like, okay, we got to start thinking about peaking for that Western semifinal or the Western final or whatever game you wind up playing. But that's the mindset now, I think, is just focusing on getting better each and every day and then hopefully peaking as the playoffs are.
Well, that's exactly what's happening over here in Hamilton as well.
Hey, I've been listening to you guys, man. You guys got the Grey Cup parade, like, already planned out, for crying out loud. You guys are all jacked up about this team. Hey, you know what? 4 out of 5. You got Bo Levi back. I mean, things are going well here.
Yeah, I mean, the second half of the season, 5 out of 7. Only losses were those Argos, those pesky Argos that you mentioned already. But
they'd be 8-4 without the Argonauts. Pretty good record.
Well, let's focus on the Lions for a sec here. Like, well, you know, you move on from last year, from Nathan Rourke, and a lot of questions coming into the season. But you think that the team has exceeded expectations to this point?
I don't know, and I say that because I think there was a lot of faith going into the season with Vernon Adams Jr. I mean, the way he performed in just the personality that he brings to the team. He's a real team guy in the sense that he's one of those guys. I mean, during the offseason, he brought all the receivers down to Tacoma, and they had like a weekend together working out and having fun. So he's really into, being that team guy. First in, here's, the stories, and he's in there at 5:30, and he's out of there at 7, first in, last out. At the end of practice, you see Vernon going around picking up the yard markers and other, equipment that's lying around and helping the equipment guys out that way. So looking at the big picture, is it surprising? No, not really. I mean, everyone looked at the departures of James Butler and of Vernon Adams Jr., but, talking to the Lions personnel guys, they felt really confident in terms of bringing in a running back. They felt like they could bring somebody in that could help their running game. Now, clearly the numbers haven't been there, but there have been flashes from Smoke Mizell. We're going to see what Jaquan Hardy brings to the table tonight. So am I surprised? Not really, because, like I said, this was a good football team despite the players that they lost.
From a Lions perspective, what are the chances that Vernon Adams wins MOP this year? I
think pretty slim, and not to say that Vernon shouldn't be in the conversation. And it kind of irritates me sometimes when you hear these conversations, and it's Chad Kelly, it's Zach Collaros, it's Brady Oliveira, and Vernon doesn't even get mentioned sometimes, right? And if you look at the numbers, there's really not that much to separate Vernon Adams Jr. and Zach Collaros. Right now, big ticket item is Zach Collaros has that reputation of having done it before. And unfortunately for Vernon, no matter what he does, it's always that, but he threw those 6 picks against Toronto. I hear these stories that, Vernon can win you a game and he can win the other team a game. Well, I mean, there was one bad game this year that was really bad, and that was Toronto. But it's interesting because
they almost won that game still.
Yeah, I mean, they gave up, I think they took their turnover the football 7 times. It was a 1-score game or whatever with 6 minutes left, right? So, but it was interesting talking to Rick Campbell after that game, because you think to yourself, who leaves their quarterback in to get picked 6 times? Usually, 3, 4, boom, you're out. And Rick was like, no, Vernon's our guy. And in a way, I think it really kind of cemented Vernon's confidence, or cemented his confidence knowing that the coaching staff has full confidence in him, knowing that, hey, I threw 6 picks at him. Take me out of the game. So if he throws 2 or 3, it's not going to be like, all of a sudden he's going to maybe get a little gun shy. And that's the thing with Vernon. If he throws a pick, he's coming right back at you, right? Like, I mean, he's that guy the boxer that'll sit there and throw toe-to-toe with you, and he'll take a lot of shots, and he'll throw a lot of shots, but he has no fear of throwing the football, even if he does get picked 2, 3, or 4 times.
I want to ask you about Matthew Betts. He's been improving every year he's been in the league, and now on pace to potentially set a record. What's it been like watching him grow? What's the biggest difference this year compared to the previous seasons for him?
I think maybe and you could probably relate to this more, Andy, is the fact that it's experience, right? I mean, you're in the league 3, 4 years. You kind of get a lay of the land. You kind of know what to expect. You know how to maybe train better. You know how to approach games better. You might know how to prepare better in terms of films. But I think the one thing with him, and you look at a guy like Menard, I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the Quebec thing with those guys, but they just have great motors. They're always flying, right? And that's the one thing about Betts. You watch him, and Sione Tuihem is the same way. Like, I don't know how many games you've seen of the Lions this year, but there's been a whole bunch of games where Sione's coming off the backside, and he's tracking down running backs on the other side, right? So you look at those ends, like with Betts, Menard, and Tuihem, and they all have great motors. They're always around the football.
You take a look at what happened right back in August. What lessons were there to be learned? Hamilton have gone to BC and won some games over the last couple of decades, but nothing like that. Were any lessons learned in that game that they can translate into this contest today?
Well, I think the big thing is you always have to respect your opponent. And the other thing, too, in that game, and I'm being honest here, fellas, not to disrespect the Tiger Cats or what they did in that game, but, talking to our sideline reporter, Karen Sermon, at the time, and, Julio and I even noticed in the booth, there was zero energy from the Lions that game. That was the flattest they've been the entire season. There was just nothing, right? And I think that was probably the biggest lesson they learned, that you cannot go into a game not having that energy and not having that vitality to be, you got to bring that pepper, put it into the soup, so to speak, right?
Well, certainly a turning point for the Ticat season. It kind of sparked a big surge since that game. What are you expecting in this game tonight?
I think for me, I want to really see how the Lions bounce back. I want to see how Hamilton fares tonight against, a pretty good opponent, because you guys have won 4 out of the last 5, 5 out of the last 7. this place, I don't think I've called a game here or been part of a game where the Lions have won at Tim Hortons Field. So I'm really looking forward to this. So many questions that we're going to see answered to.
Well, Marjanovich, why can't I say your name today?
You know what? I'm
a little rattled.
You know why? Because you know I'm going to bring up the convertible stuff.
Oh, here it comes
You're all
again.
nervous, but I'm not going to. We'll save that for around the CFL.
Here we go, folks. You've been a great friend to us here on the Ticats Audio Network. Always appreciate your time and joining us here. We have yourself a great call, and we'll see what happens in terms of the after 60 minutes.
Okay, we'll see you here for the Grey Cup, right?
Right on.